morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on this Tuesday to Ask the Theologian. Glad you are here. I'm Dr. Randy White, and we take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions, and we have fun. We're a little sarcastic. We're a little snarky sometimes. We're solidly biblical and try to be a little entertaining along the way, and just have a good time where we are, Taos, New Mexico, to where you are across America and around the world. Always exciting to take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions and have a delightful time. It's a snowy day here in Taos. How is it there where you are? Let's see. Maybe I can even show you. Let's just see here. I haven't shown you my snowy roads here in a while. This was, there we go. This morning on the, oops, wrong button. This morning on the way to work. There we go. Let's see. How do I, there we go. As I left this morning, had a nice little spring snow, and we're sending that, by the way, east. If you live east of Taos, New Mexico, it is coming your way, although, you know, you might get yours in a form of rain. But we like these spring snows. Does us, you know, just makes us feel good. That's what it does. Breaks some branches and puts out the power and all that kind of stuff. But so welcome. What's your question? We'll take it. Your biblical, theological, worldview question. If you've got a question, you can put the word question in first of all, and if you would like, you can also go to asktheologian.com. and put that in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Jay in Tennessee, there it is. That snow makes my anxiety go through the roof. Jay, I just watched yesterday that advertisement from Geico. You remember the counselor? Well, you want to go to Mamby-Pamby land, and what all did he say? You know, you jack wagon? Need a Kleenex? You remember that one? So there's where we take care of your anxiety there. Appreciate it. Jennifer said, seems late for that much snow. We got about 12 inches there, but we're 8,600 feet there, so the altitude gets it. We typically get a late snow, like into May, and it could go as late as, I would say, Memorial Day. But there's lots of nice weather in between, so it's not really like that every day. Time to get into your questions, isn't it? And see what you have on your mind today. And Jay says I'd have to have a thicker hoodie for all that snow. I didn't even wear a jacket today. And Luca was with me. He didn't have a jacket on, I don't think, did you? Yeah, it's like, it's New Mexico. You don't need a jacket. Here we go. Question came in yesterday. Ask the Theologian. And the question was, will you explain the phrase, God forbid? Well, God forbid that I should explain that phrase. Luca, would you, it's in the scripture a few times. Find when it says God forbid. And let's think of this, because I'm going to say it's a means of speech. Paul speaks about it. I know, you know, shall we sin so that grace may abound? God forbid. I think I'm going by memory here on this. Is it a phrase that's more of a figure of speech? Let's go ahead and look at it and see what's in the Greek on it. And what passage are we looking at? Romans 6:1. And so let's pull it up in English, and then let's look at it in Greek a little bit. God forbid. We having a hard time there. actually 6 verse 2. God forbid. Okay. Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. So we want to take this and we want to try to figure out what is it. Now, clearly it's absolutely not, but I think I'm looking at the Greek. I don't even think it uses the word God. I think that is completely an English interpretation. Yeah. Checking out the Greek here. It's actually in verse 2. Yeah. Really, a literal translation would be, it's a double negative, which a lot of languages use double negatives. English does not really. English, a double negative cancels it out, makes it into a positive sometimes. So you have to, you can't really translate the double negative into English, or you've not done it justice. So they had to come up with something. I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect some of the other translations use something like, may it never be. But it really, not never is going to be the most literal translation, not never. But not never in English means someday. So you can't put that. So they went with this, let's say, figure of speech, God forbid, even though God is not in the English language. It was something that would, I think, carry that emotional force of saying, again, put aside your rules of Greek grammar and imagine Paul saying, well, let's go with rules of Greek grammar and let's put on our Winston Churchill. Never, 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 never. There we go. But you can't do a Winston Churchill accent in the scripture. So they had to do something that was strong, powerful, had some oomph, had a little emotional twist to it. Because in the Greek, I think this not never was kind of a shout. So how do you get all of that? May it never be? By no means, absolutely not. They absolutely convey the actual meaning of the word. But I do think you need that emotional force to it. Perish the thought. Don't even think about it. Even to bring God into it, which, some might argue that's a little far because it doesn't say God. But you can't just say what it says. So this is one of those cases in which every English translation, by virtue of the fact that the Greek is not equivalent to the English, there is no equivalent, you've got to do something, and you need to do something that promotes that emotional force to it. So I think, God forbid, absolutely by the name of God, never, never, never shall we continue, that grace may abound. It's the strongest form of being able to say that in Greek, and so they tried to find the strongest form of being able to say that in English and came up with God forbid. Is that the best thing? I would venture to say maybe it's as good as you're going to get. Let's see what Young's literal translation did. They probably did not put God forbid because of the literal nature of it. In verse 2, okay, so they said, let it not be, and put an exclamation mark. It'd be interesting to see how often did the Young's literal use an exclamation mark. If we could find out, hey, that's kind of a rare thing for Young's literal. They're not heavy on the exclamation marks. It might be interesting to us. But God forbid, that's what it is. It's a not never. I think to put it into a modern parlance just a little bit, this doesn't fit with the phrase, but who is the guy? Why did I forget his name right here all of a sudden? Talking about guns, you can have it when you pry it out of my cold, dead hands. It's that kind of emotionalism that's given in that phrase. Not never. Thank you very, very much. And I noticed Pastor Bays is here, who is trying in his program to come up with some conclusion, and he couldn't today. And so, he was begging you all to go out and lie just to make his feelings better. Go watch that. Go watch that Geico commercial about Mamby-Pamby Land, you jackwagon. Sorry, did I offend you? You want a Kleenex? There, now you got to fix the camera, Luca. We always appreciate Mark and his program there. Shields and Arrows, very unprofessional program, not much content to it, but it was worth checking out anyway every now and then. Okay, now we have. Look, I see the hearts and the celebrations jumping up there. So thank you. Okay, next question of the day comes in: is our faith under siege? Good for you, Ron. Says, I'm using that not never this Sunday. Good, I'm glad. Take a box of Kleenex up there with you and throw it out there, too. Just in case you offend someone. Now, we get into this question, is our faith under siege? The popular thing would be to say, absolutely. Absolutely, it is under siege. We've got to have shields and arrows and block all the fiery darts of the wicked one that are coming at us. I kind of think that I think we exaggerate that. I think that there is and always has been, to some degree, some pushback for people of faith in general. And there have always been the attacks on Christianity in whatever way and whatever degree there is. But to say it's under siege, I think is a kind of a psychological thing to make us feel better. I hear all the time, well, I started doing the work for the Lord and then the devil just attacked me. And everywhere I've gone, there's been a spiritual attack from the devil. I'm not so sure about that. I really want to take it in more of a sense that we get discouraged when we do something. And somebody says the slightest little negative thing, and we want to, and let's even say they're right, because there's a lot of accurate accusation against Christianity. I wrote a book called Evangelical Garbage. A lot of people calling out the garbage out there, and some of them are not from the faith community. I'm from the inside, but some of them are not. It's kind of like, I can give Mark a hard time because I taught him everything he knows. And yeah, you know, somebody else shouldn't give Mark a hard time, just me. Well, it's the same thing. There are people from the outside who do attack the Christian faith. If they were somewhere else, they'd probably attack another faith, except in Islam, they'd probably be killed for it. But this attack goes on out there. It's not as bad as Paul had it, I can tell you that. He was under siege. And those in the closing days of the New Testament, well, even in the earlier days, the believing body in, say, Acts chapter 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, you got in chapter 12, you know, Peter's about to lose his head. We don't get on our program and say, you know, pray for Ken. He's been arrested down there in Dallas, and he is about to lose his head. The county judge down there, she's going to have him by morning. We've never had conversations like that. So what is this, mamby-pamby land or something? He hurt my feelings. Well, who cares? Just get out there and go and work hard and do it. Under siege, there's always going to be someone who disagrees with you. You know, I think we can take those people who disagree and we can take it and say, okay, now why are they misunderstanding me? Or why am I not communicating this well? Or why are they so, I don't know, so antagonistic against me or the Christian faith? Or what is it? What's going on here? So is it under siege? Not really. We're lazy, maybe. And I'll just speak evangelicalism broadly. We're lazy. We don't get out and do the work like we used to. Pastors are lazy today. I don't do the work like I used to do. You know, I don't have I didn't have a every door in 2024 like I did every door in 94. So we don't do all the stuff like we used to, and we've watered things down so much that most churches aren't worth going to. Honestly, it's just a waste of time. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to come out being able to pass a Bible quiz on some particular passage. So maybe we deserve to be under siege. I don't think I can find it here. Let me see, maybe. No, it was an advertisement, come to think of it. And I doubt it's going to pop up here. But I was just on social media just a little bit yesterday, and there was an advertisement for pastors, you know, double your church. It said double your church in 90 days. See if I can find the advertisement here. I may not be able to. Is this it? Okay, I didn't go to the advertisement, but just now I put the title of the book in because I remembered it, and here's the advertisement that it goes to. So I'll show you. Now I haven't read the advertisement. I started to comment on the ad, and then I was like, nah, I don't need that in my life. But I'm almost sure this is just going to be group psychology, social theory, social dynamics, garbage. It ought to be under siege. Let's see here. Implement the counterintuitive digital evangelism system in your church that we use to double, triple, quadruple churches and their resources without wasting thousands on ads, which they must have done because I got the ad twice. This is for pastors looking to break growth barriers. Growth barriers are stupid, made-up social dynamic things. The 200 barrier, the 500 barrier. Let's see. So you don't have to waste thousands on ads or hang thousands of door hangers or post content every day, hoping your outreach volunteers show up. I mean, we wouldn't want people to go out on Tuesday night doing outreach or anything. Let's see. I got some video there. Get your copy today. Regular $97, but today only $4.99. Ladies and gentlemen, we have hit the jackpot. We just saved almost $100. We saved $92 today. Nobody, you can mark this, nobody ever paid $97 for it. Why shouldn't it be under siege when you're a big bald-headed liar? $97? But for $4.99, I wonder if I can have a payment plan on that. What is the double in 90 days method? I bet they don't really tell us here. The double in 90 days method is a little-known approach for getting 8 to 10 first-time guests every Sunday, getting first-time guests to become active members and developing active members into multiplying leaders. That's Rick Warren garbage right there. Without all the painful stuff that you don't want to do the work. You just want to spend $4.99, get 6, 8, 10 visitors every Sunday who become multiplying members. This simple system makes it possible for you to double your congregation as many times as you want without needing to become a social media guru, wasting thousands of dollars, buy ad space, this is Christianity today. If you're a pastor, you get this kind of garbage day in and day out on these advertisements. It ought to be under siege. Now, you can say, well, that's not the faith under siege. That's stupid psychobabble in the church under siege. And some guy trying to make $5. I got a job opportunity right here at the local pregnancy center, $15 an hour. He could do better. He could do better coming to work right here. They probably wouldn't hire him, shouldn't hire him, but he could do better right there. $15. I mean, that's like selling 3 of those an hour. You're right, Nancy. It sounds like multi-level marketing schemes. This guy just trying to make $5. I don't know if I even want to read it. It's a shortcut. Let's see. Turning it blah blah blah. Whenever you hit a page like this that goes on and on and on, you just keep scrolling down and look how long this page is. You know what that is? Every single time, they are using a psychology means of sales that they want to entice you just a little bit, keep you reading a little bit. They've studied these things. The guy's a shyster. I don't care how much he loves Jesus either, by the way. He's a shyster. I don't know, is shyster the right word? Maybe look up shyster. So, hey, if it's under siege, it's probably because we do stupid stuff. That's why it's under siege. We just get in and start preaching the Bible and teaching the Bible and quit trying to double our church in 90 days and then again in the next 90 and the next 90 and the next 90. So is it under siege? I don't think so. I don't know really any pastor. I've been pastor 30 plus years. I don't know any of them that have ever been persecuted. They didn't go to jail for their preaching. They didn't, So I'll read Jennifer's comments. I haven't read it, but I think I like it. It says, pastors like to remind their congregation, we could be persecuted like the early church if things continue to get worse here. I highly doubt it. She says, I highly doubt it. I agree. Yeah, this preaches well. We do like to stand up, and say, ladies and gentlemen, we're under siege. The government is after us. The secularists are after us. The progressives are after us. The neighbors are after us. On and on and on and on and on. We live in a little bit of a society in which everybody is under siege. It doesn't matter what anybody does today. Somebody's, going to get on social media and put up how terrible it was. I saw a video yesterday of a lady attacking Chick-fil-A because they didn't fill her order right. And she was in the drive-thru and she was mad, and she got out and she started telling them what not and why for, and she forgot to put her car in park and it ran out on the road. So anyway, maybe we ought to just, they got the order wrong. Whatever. Okay, let me move on. Randy down in Corsicana. There we go. Good to see you again, Randy. What does a pro-life Calvinist do with those babies who are aborted? Often they try to back out of this. They try to say God only predestines some particular things. And that really doesn't work. If you take Calvinist thought, Calvinist logic, that one really falls apart. But sometimes you get an unknowing audience, and well, God didn't predestine evil. I mean, God cannot do that. That's evil. It's nothing of His. And so they try to back out of it, but the logic really doesn't work if you press that. So then what they will do is, no, this was actually, whoever, Tom, Dick, Harry, Peter, Paul, Mary, whatever, it was their decision. They made that decision before the foundation of the earth. In their free will, they made that decision. But it still comes to the fact that, God cemented that decision in, the supposed decision that existed prior to their existence. Their soul wasn't even an existence there prior to anything about them. Prior to God making them, they made this decision. And then God made them stuck with that decision. Free will is gone. So what does a pro-life Calvinist do with babies that are aborted? I think they drop their Calvinism or try to explain away their Calvinism. They don't have a leg to stand on it. And again, some of them, I remembered yesterday I tried to come up with the name and I couldn't. Kevin DeYoung. Yes, and here is the article. I have referred to this article a few times because I guess I want to say, here's an honest Calvinist, finally, and get it here where you can see it. So Kevin DeYoung on the Gospel Coalition, which is more just a coalition, has this article. If you want to look it up, it's several years old, but I always refer back to it. Yes, all things, in fact. Now, you go down here, my favorite Lord's Day in the entire catechism. This is pre-scheduling the scriptures out. Is on sovereignty, providence. He goes on, let's see, coming to grips with God's all-encompassing providence requires a massive shift in how we look at the world. It requires changing our vantage point from seeing the cosmos as a place where man rules and God responds to beholding a universe where God creates and constantly controls with sovereign love and providential power. Now, he's got some false dichotomy in there, but nonetheless, we'll skip it. The definition of providence in the Catechism, which of course is their sole rule of faith, is stunning. All things, yes, all things come to us not by chance, but from his fatherly hand. Now, I think you forgot the opening quotation marks there. But I will sometimes ask seminary students being examined for ordination, how would the Heidelberg Catechism, particularly Lord's Day 10, help you minister to someone who lost a limb in Afghanistan, or lost a job, or just lost a child? Because we want to know how you're going to live according to the Heidelberg Catechism, which is the sole source of authority for our faith because we're Calvinists. I'm usually disappointed to hear students who should be affirming the confessions of their denomination, because we've put them through the grist mill, through the seminary mill, through the degree mill, in order that they would preach the denominational brochure. What are we going to do if we get pastors out there who actually think and don't preach the brochure? We'll be bankrupt. I am surprised, he says, to find they are not affirming the confessions of their denomination. The students are much more at ease using passive language about God's permissive will or comfortable generalities. Now, this he gets at the point. This is what they do here, is they will use passive language about God's permissive will, or they'll use generalities about God being in control. And they're more comfortable with that than they are about stating precisely and confidently what their Calvinism actually says. This has come from God's fatherly hand. Now, as far as I remember, he doesn't mention abortion right here, but I want to back up and let's notice. All things, yes, all things come to us not by chance, but from his fatherly hand. Blow off that leg in Afghanistan, God did it. Kevin DeYoung is at least an honest Calvinist. Somebody goes down to the abortion mill, sticks saline in their baby, kills it and throws it in a dumpster. God did that. That is Calvinism. There's no way out of Calvinism is this evil, wicked, bloodthirsty kind of religion as far as I'm concerned. And it's not Christianity, it's Heidelberg Catechism. I think the world would be better off if there had never been a Heidelberg meeting. And Chalcedon, for that matter, and Nicaea. All those creeds. Get rid of them, where we'd actually read the Bible and study the Bible and use that as our sole source of authority for faith and practice. So hope that helps out. You know, what do pro-Calvinists do? They don't answer the question. They sneak away in this. I don't know, this general providence, as he said, or that's God's permissive. There's a difference between God's permissive will and God's, which just undoes everything. You know, God is absolutely sovereign. There's his permissive will, and there's his whatever they call the other will. You know, it's stuff that they make up. So much stuff made up about God that it's no wonder a lot of people look at the Christian religion, which is so influenced by Calvinism, and say, no, thank you. I don't want to do anything with that. Next question of the day. Are we forgiven before we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ? I'm going to go with yes on it. I know that is a bit shocking, although I would have to say even Calvinists believe that. Now, they believe it in a completely different way. But a Calvinist believe that a person is chosen and then they're regenerated and then they believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, because they can't believe because they're too much scum of the earth and their total depravity. There's no way they could believe or ever would believe. So a Calvinist believes, yeah, okay, those who God has chosen to not send to hell, those who he's chosen to believe, they're forgiven before. Now, I would say it is before, but it's a completely different scene. And of course, I go to 2 Corinthians 5:19, to wit, that God was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself, not imputing their trespasses unto them. A few weeks ago, in our Little Bit of This and Little Bit of That series, which you can find on Worship or Randy White Ministries or YouTube, I did a session in which I said, not imputing their trespasses is the same thing as forgiven. So, the world has had its trespasses forgiven, not put on their account. This happens before they believe. So it's not the sin that has not been forgiven that is keeping them from heaven. It is that they have a gift out there available for them and that they have not yet received it. By the way, speaking of great things available for you, here today only, you can save $92 on this, only $4.99 for garbage. Sorry to jump back there on that. Hey, Peter, we see Peter the workman in the Netherlands. A few weeks ago, has it been, we talked about John chapter 20, and Peter was going to have the opportunity to preach. Just give a little update. He emailed me, said it went well. Preaching in the Anglican Church, good, solid, right dividing stuff without scaring the Anglicans. This is a very positive thing, Peter. Thanks for what you're doing there. Appreciate that. Our next question. Is the wrath of God to Israel or to the whole world? It says, thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. I'm going to look and see if there is a passage that directly has the wrath of God under the world. I kind of think in Romans is where we're going to find the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Now, there's a sense in which we could say ungodliness and unrighteousness here in Romans 1:18 would have to be defined by Torah. Therefore, he's talking about Torah. And it may be defined by Torah, but this of men seems pretty broad. The wrath is revealed. It's the ungodliness and righteousness of men. It's revealed from heaven. Men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Now again, could you argue that for Israel? I think it's going to be a difficult argument. It's only Israel who holds the truth in unrighteousness, therefore that's who we're talking about. That which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it to them. The invisible things of creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. See, this seems to broaden it out far beyond those who are of the Mosaic law, trying to define those who hold the truth in righteousness. It's manifest just in creation itself, if you will. And so they, man, knew God, glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations. Their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like a corruptible man, to birds, four-footed beasts, and creeping things. That wouldn't be the Jews. Wherefore God gave them up to their uncleanness of heart. So I think with that, we're going to have to say the world. Revelation 6, we were there yesterday in Revelation chapter 6, verse 16 or so, in one of these earthquakes that we were talking about yesterday, said to the mountains and rocks, fall upon us. These people desire to die. From the wrath of the Lamb, the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? I think by the time you get to Romans 6, in fact, I'm sure by the time you get to Romans 6, Well, what I'm about to say is not going to sound right, but then I'm going to back up and try to defend it. When you get to Romans 6, God has already set aside and protected the Jewish people. So the wrath of the Lamb, the day of his wrath, I think you could argue is more general. Now, the reason that doesn't sound right is because it's in Romans 7. You have the sealing of the 144,000. And if you take those completely chronological, then the wrath comes prior to the sealing. But I think there are probably very few that would take that completely chronological. They would rather stack those up, if you will, where you've got chapter 6 taking place on earth and chapter 7 taking place more in heaven, so to speak, a heavenly decree that takes place rather than an earthly experience. And so they're not completely chronological. Revelation, one of the hardest books there is to make chronological. But when you think about, let's go to Daniel 9. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and thy holy city. To make an end, to do reconciliation, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, to anoint, know there and understand, from a commandment to restore until Messiah the Prince. 7, threescore, and after threescore and 2 weeks Messiah will be cut off, not for himself. The people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end comes with a flood, with a war. Desolations are determined. There's this covenant for 1 week. In the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice of oblation to cease, for the overspreading of abominations. He shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, I was trying to remember if that used the word wrath, and it does not appear to be. That one is more narrow. When you get to the day of the Lord, the day of the Lord's wrath, many of those are Israel. But I think it would be hard to narrow all of the wrath passages completely to Israel. I think we would really have a hard time to do that. So is the wrath of God to Israel or the whole world? I'm going to go with the whole world on it. Any thoughts? Any disagreements with that anywhere? Let me know. Here a question came in from Gary, who has asked the Theologian to sell me some SEO stuff. Let me demonstrate to you how you can get guaranteed thousands of clicks to your website without SEO and without pay-per-click. So that's the sale. You don't have to do anything. I do it for you. Less than 48 hours, we can have it. Double it right now, double it. Thanks, Gary, but I think I'll pass on it. I'm trying to read the name of the website. I can't get it there. Here we go. Question came in just this morning, and the question is, good morning, why do Christians still hate, cuss, and don't forgive? Maybe you could say we still deal with a little bit of Romans 7 stuff. Romans 7, verse 15, that which I do not, that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I. And then I do that which I would not. I consent unto the law that it is good. So he's struggling through. This is the Apostle Paul's testimony here as he goes and see this. Down verse 23, I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, bringing me into captivity of the law of sin, which is in my members. Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I think I will perfectly agree. There is a lot of Christians who hate, cuss, don't forgive, drink, chew, and go with girls who do. And some of them very good Christians. Some of them really do love the Lord, and yet struggle with these things. Now, let me say the flip side of this is, I would say it's not even true with the vast majority of Christians. I mean, people, you go into a church on Sunday, unless you happen to be in the Western United States, where they do a lot more cussing than the Eastern or Southern United States. But you don't, for the most part, run into people who hate, cuss, and don't forgive. I mean, they're nice people, and they struggle with it sometimes. But on the average, it's not like Christians are known for hating, cussing, and not forgiving. But there are Christians who hate and cuss and don't forgive. I suspect if you talk to them and say, hey, how come you hate, cuss, and don't forgive? Be like, I know it, man. I struggle with that, man. I am working on that. How come you're so judgmental? I think, and maybe this is a little psychology here. You all can tell me if I just need to go to mamby-pamby land. I think that we have, each one of us, we have our background, our history, our heritage, which for some makes things much more difficult than for others. For example, I don't really struggle with cussing. But I didn't grow up cussing. I grew up in a world in which, if there was cussing, say on television, the television got turned off. Won't do that. So that sort of trained out of me. But not everybody grew up in that home. And some people, they cuss like a sailor. Woo! Just comes. And I think those things come out difficult. It's hard to get rid of those things, is what I'm trying to say. They really do struggle with that which goes deep within them. So let me encourage you. You got a believer out there who cusses. Let me encourage you to try to understand where they are and try to help them. Sometimes I'll even joke around a little bit. Someone will say something that involves a cuss word. And I'll say something like, I probably wouldn't have said it that way, but just a little hint to say, hey, there's a different way to say that. And you can be nice in that regard. Someone self-confesses here. I grew up with a dad who cussed, and I got my mouth washed out with soap a lot. So there are these. If you hear dad cuss, you're going to start cussing, and then mom's trying to wash it out. Washing your mouth out with soap. Yeah, I don't think we do that anymore, do we? Do you ever get your mouth washed out with soap? He's pleading the fifth. I never did, but I got threatened. But for me, it was like I see Jennifer, we weren't even allowed to say gosh. Well, that was true with us too, I'm going to wash your gosh, because that was it was a way of saying something else. And hate is really hard. I mean, sometimes I guess we would just say that is hateful. But play around with Mark on this program every now and then, like I did today. And it can sound like hate when it's actually love and appreciation, adoration. But the way we say it, so there's a person out there. Have you met the old fella that is the biggest grump there ever was? But everyone says, oh, he's just a teddy bear. He's a big old teddy bear. No, he's not. He's a grump. No, he's a big old teddy bear. That grump has become part of his teddy bear personality. And I guess, a bear is kind of grumpy, right? So maybe we should be careful on judging these sort of surface level kind of things. And I realize it's hard because it's a lot easier to judge on the surface level. He cusses and is hateful. He's nothing but a snark ball. That's what he is. You get to know a person and you begin to say, oh, wow, there's actually that's different. I didn't know that about it. But I don't mean to just excuse it all. There are people, Christians, who hate, cuss, don't forgive, on and on we could go. And I think it really comes down to the Romans 7 kind of struggle, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? And that they probably want to overcome that in their life. But let's not try to build this cookie cutter kind of Christian. Here's the way a Christian dresses. Here's the way a Christian talks. Here's the way a Christian, thinks about the government, whatever. Here's the way. There's an individuality that we can take on and we can carry out and probably do a pretty decent job in our Christian faith. And let's go to the last question of the day. I don't know. I got 5 minutes. Maybe I'll squeeze in another one. But this one came in this morning. Why do people say that faith is given to us by God? I think they say it because they've got too much Calvinism and they misunderstand Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. Ephesians 2, 8, and 9, for that by grace you are saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. This is obviously here a pronoun, that, not of yourselves. Now, in English, it would be possible, and maybe you would even say reasonable, to try to figure out, okay, what is it that's not of yourselves? Well, the closest thing to it, which is kind of a decent grammatical rule, it's not always true, but the closest thing to that is faith. So, by grace are you saved through faith, and that faith is not of yourselves, faith. Here we have another pronoun right there. It is the gift of God. And so, it's an interpretive matter. Right? So far, it's an interpretive matter in English, and most of us read the Bible in English. You take that upon, then, hundreds of years of Calvinism leaking into the church and being taught in the church, and it's not only an interpretation here, but this then seems to confirm everything you've been told, that faith is a gift that is given to us. Now, the problem with this is, and the Calvinists know this, but they don't really want to dig into it too much. The problem here is is that faith is, I believe, I hope I have this right, faith is feminine. Now, that has nothing to do with masculinity. We said this the other day. It's a gender designation, a grammatical designation, I should say. Grammatically, it happens to be in the feminine. That is not in the masculine. It's not in the feminine. It's in the neuter. And it is just an English word because it's inserted there. So in the Greek, you've got a feminine noun. Now, pronouns have to match the gender. There are masculine pronouns, there are feminine pronouns, there are neuter pronouns. So you have to use the one. We don't have this in English, but we do in English have, tenses. I sing, I sang. Now, we would immediately know if we say, last Sunday, I sing Amazing Grace. We'd say, either he doesn't know English very well, English is a second language, or maybe he's had too much to drink, which would not be the case with me. On either case, I speak English as a first language, and it comes quite natural to say. For me, I would never say, last Sunday, I sang Amazing Grace. It would always be sang. Now, just the same, the pronouns. Now, we have a little bit in this because we do say of faith, for example, we would use the word it. Faith, it is the gift of God. But Greek does not do that. Greek would say faith, she is the gift of God. Because faith is feminine. Now, here, remember, it is just inserted in English, so we can't go by that in Greek. But here, it's a neuter right here. Faith is not what's not of yourselves. What is not of yourselves is, by grace are you saved through faith. I'm gonna put all that in the neuter, because that's a phrase which becomes then neuter, because you've got masculine, you've got feminine, all in the same sentence. The entire package is the neuter. By grace are you saved through faith, and that package is not of yourselves. By grace through faith is a gift that's given. We know it's a gift that's given because Paul talks about it being a gift of given. The dispensation of the grace of God, which is given unto me, youward, this dispensation in which I was the first saved by grace. I become the pattern for them that come hereafter. So it messes up the people who say faith was given to us by God. Now, he gave us the ability to have faith, created in the image of God. From the beginning, faith has been, the only way you can approach God is through faith, and he has given us that. So if you're talking in a very general sense, faith is from God, eyesight is from God, hearing is from God, breathing is from God, I am from God, and the world is from God. So it's all a gift given to us by God. Well, yeah, in its most general sense. But in its specific sense of Nancy has faith, Mark does not. Kurt has faith, Jennifer does not. That kind of God has gifted them with faith and not that. I think that's unbiblical. And it comes from only using the English. And it's not that they translated it wrong, it's that the English language doesn't provide the ability to do this different, which is why, again, I think even the strongest, King James only really needs to go and say, okay, in order that I can know what that it's talking about, I need to know a little Greek. And by the way, you don't have to know very much Greek. You just have to know, hey, these things are masculine and feminine, and I can look in a simple online tool and find out which it is to match it up. That's the Greek you have to know. Know that the principle is there, and carry that out. Thank you very much. Out of time today. I do have time for fresh questions tomorrow. I've got plenty of old ones if we don't get, if yours don't come in. But if you want a question answered tomorrow, go to askthetheologian.com and you can submit your question using the Ask a Question button, and we'll look for that. And a full week of broadcasting here. Look forward to being with you all week long. And thanks again for being here. Hope you have a delightful, whether it's a snowy day or a rainy day or a sunny day. Hopefully you don't hate, cuss, and fail to forgive. Smile. You'll grump. We'll see you later. Thanks. Appreciate you all. We'll see you soon.